Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, this is Jackie-cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. You know the websites, jackie-cation.com, dorkforest.com, thedorkforest.com. You know the credits, maybe. Mike Rickberg composed and sang that intro song with his girlfriend, Sarah Cohen. And Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio, bless him. And Vilmos works on my website. And Vilmos, you should check the links on that because he is available to do your website, it turns out. He's hanging up a shingle. He's doing it. So go check him out. It is a great month. The sponsor this month? Haha. Is my sister. My sister, Darla-cation, who pronounces her name in a way that many people want to pronounce my name, which is with Cashian or Kashian, or she ethnics it up. I don't know why. Our dad always said Cation. But much like Stephen Colbert, she gets to do whatever she wants. So, it's a great episode. Feel free to know about the things in my life, which of course are This Will Make an Excellent Horcrux, DVD and CD, available April 1st, available right now for $5 download on allthingsrecords.com through the allthingscomedy.com podcast network, of which I am part of, and I love those guys. You should go over there and check them out. And on jackie-cation.com, there's t-shirts and CDs and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be everywhere. I'm going all over the place. Hong Kong, Austin, Texas, Chicago this summer, very glamorous, or this fall, or something like that. Anyway, go to jackie-cation.com for full details of absolutely everything else. Let's get into it. At RBC Wealth Management, social responsibility starts at the top. As a part of the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC has been recognized among the world's financial, social, and environmental corporate leaders. Our sense of responsibility extends to our reputation for putting clients' interests first. My personal commitment is to help you achieve your financial goals by also considering sustainable and responsible investing strategies. To learn more, visit www.darlacashian.com. RBC Wealth Management, a division of RBC Capital Markets, LLC. Member NYSE, FINRA, SIPC. Live Dork Forest, Seattle. Live Dork Forest. Very exciting. My name is Jackie-cation, and this is a coffee that I purchased by going outdoors and looking around. Because I didn't know if there was a coffee shop, but I was almost sure there was. And then it worked. Okay, so sitting across from me, local Seattle dork luminary, Ken Jennings, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have him.
Thank you.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Jackie.
Sure, this is neat. The whole Jeopardy thing, of course, always fascinating because it's quick. It's not just, it's in the form of an answer or a question or a thing. And then you also have to be smart. And then then there's tricks. Then there are tricks to get.
There's lots of tricks, yeah. Because everybody on the show is smart, you know?
Right.
It's not like Price is Right where they just pull people off the street.
Right. Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, like you've got a funny Alex Trebek t-shirt. Get up there, you know?
Right.
Come on down. So everybody's very smart. So often it does come down to the tricks, you know?
Yeah.
The thumb, for example.
You got a quick. Did you just do it knowing that you would probably know the answer?
They often you do buzz without having the answer in your head. Like there's something in your head that tells you, I don't have this answer ready to go yet, but as this Canadian man is staring at me, I will be able to produce it from somewhere inside me.
It's hard to be intimidated by Canadians.
As Canadians go, he's in the scarier bracket though, right?
Ooh, he is a little spooky.
He's strict.
Yeah. And then there's always weird topics that you may or may not be familiar with, correct?
Yeah, it could be anything.
It can be anything.
You go out there and you can't cram for Jeopardy because literally it could be opera or it could be
bees.
Nuclear physics. Could be bees.
It's
bees. Probably beekeeping.
It might be beekeeping.
On any given night. Or it could be hip-hop, you know. You have no idea.
And then all of a sudden you're like, what was the last hip-hop album? What was the last hip-hop album you bought?
Last hip-hop album I bought?
Yeah. Or stole,
wow.
or
yes.
whatever.
So are we counting stole?
Sure.
I remember buying in CD form Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Okay.
But that was at least
12, 15 years ago?
Over 10 years ago.
I have that one.
15.
That's what I like to do. I like to get music every 12 to 15 years.
That's how you.
I'm not even kidding.
That's how you can tell you're really devoted to a genre.
Right.
If every 15 years you go out and buy the one record that even the white people have heard of.
Sure. My last Granddaddy album is from 2002.
Are they still together? Is Granddaddy still together?
They are. They played Outside Lands a year and a half ago, and I saw them, and I didn't know any of the songs because they've been writing ever since 2002.
I saw them open for Elliott Smith. So I've never seen them open for a living artist. That's how. That's how long it's been since I saw Granddaddy.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, so I did actually just buy a new rap album. I bought Eminem's new album. It's excellent. It's excellent. It turns out
he raps very fast.
He's a very quick rapper. It's true. Him and the hippity hop. He talks very quick.
Like Jeopardy.
Right, and he is still hanging out with not the greatest ladies. He's not hanging out with, spoiler alert, he's hanging out with assholes, and it continues. These are not, he should hang out with librarians, and then he would sing about how bitches be reading too much.
But do you think he hangs out with these sort of low life women for the material? Is he like doing research?
I have no idea.
He can deduct the bleach he has to buy, and
it must be the lowest self-esteem ever. But he does have a great line. He was like, "You remind me of a 49er because you've been a gold digger since you was a minor." Boom,
and it rhymes.
And it rhymes, and it's lovely. But he's very angry at this woman. This woman might have blown Dre.
Wow.
Both guys named Dre. Two guys named Dre.
So not the Dre, not Eminem's friend Dre.
No, Eminem's friend Dre, and then another guy named Dre, who he also knows.
Confusing.
And a guy named Lupa. Not Lupe Fiasco, Lupa. I'm unfamiliar with his work. I've been told that I should buy something called Acid Rap. Anyway, let's talk about your dorkdoms, which are pretty much, I mean, when a gentleman such as yourself, you're willing to go down many rabbit holes. Clearly.
I'm a professional dork, and it's sort of a lifelong thing. You know,
right?
Even as a kid, I would just be obsessed with one thing for 2 weeks. You know, dinosaurs or whatever it is.
Right.
Mummies. You know, something.
Oh,
and you're just nobody's as fascinated as a 10-year-old boy with a new
right.
obsession. You know.
Right. And then you go, and there are picture books, and there's chapter books, and then it gets too dense, and then you're 11, and you're like, I'm done.
I remember going into the closet, because you realize, it's a social liability, actually.
Oh, right.
It's the opposite of cool to be too obsessed with something,
Right.
It's not a hit with girls to know Captain Kirk's middle name, And so you don't want people to know that's you.
Right. And I think that once you start admitting that kind of thing, if it were girls, everyone would be like, oh, he's a boy who's into girls. But if you're a boy that's into, gemstones, people are less interested. And you're like, no, I'm going to buy them for girls. And that doesn't work.
That's weird. My son is actually pretty obsessed with rocks and gems right now. So it's weird that you would say that, because he is certainly a future Dork Forest guest in training.
Excellent. The geology. I have not had a rock dork on yet. Attainable goal. Anybody out there? Anyway.
Think of the ratings if you were to get a fascinating rock and gem expert.
young boy Jennings. And that's it.
That's actually his name.
That's his name.
Young
boy Jennings.
We're Native Americans, and
your given name is Tarzan, and you named him Boy. I don't blame you. All right, so I had to look up. I always ask people what their dorkdoms are, and they usually send me a short list. And the first one, I had to look it up, and then I was like, oh, I've heard of that, and it is geocaching.
I'm obsessed with geocaching. You guys anybody here ever done this? Seattle's sort of like Geocaching Central. The company that runs the universe of geocaching is like, they used to be like one street down from here. Now they're in Fremont.
Okay.
It's a map-related pastime. I was always sort of a geography nerd as a kid.
Right.
I was writing this book about maps, and somebody clued me into this thing called geocaching.
Right.
It's a treasure hunt based on GPS, based on the talking voice in your dashboard that tells you you've made a wrong turn.
Okay, but it's actual coordinates, not just on the corner of Elm and 12th.
Right. What if instead of making you feel bad, that lady was like leading you on a merry chase through the back streets and forest?
And you don't just have to follow the blue line. You have to actually hit the button to look at the whole picture.
Right. So someone has hidden something.
Something.
At minimum, it's a small container with a paper log you could sign your name on.
Okay.
And it's hidden somewhere in the universe. There's like 2 million of these now, I think. And all you have is a latitude and a longitude.
And you say that there's a company that started doing this as a thing, or
well, they manage the website. It's pretty much, it's essentially open source. Some guy in Oregon just invented this one day. It's like Clinton decrypted GPS. Suddenly anybody in the world can ask a satellite where they are to within like 3 feet, which is some totally new thing.
Wow.
And this guy the next day goes out and buries this thing in the woods and posts, like on Usenet, he posts the coordinates and says, "Hey, go find my trash can."
Okay.
And this is how geocaching starts. Some weirdo in Portland.
Oh, that had to be Portland. There's some
shocker.
The bearded youth movement. What year was that?
Late Clinton era, so 99, I think.
Okay, late 90s. Just some dude.
Some dude, and it catches on. And now there's a company in Seattle that actually, runs the website and says,
right.
You ping them and say, here's where I am, and it tells you, there's 13 geocaches within,
cool.
2,000 feet of you or something.
Right.
It's because now they're omnipresent. It used to be you'd have to go to some amazing beauty spot, that it would lead you a merry chase through hill and dale. And now,
everybody's pretty is it geocaching.com or .net or .?
Yeah, it's just geocaching.com.
At AOL.com. What's the,
it's an Angel Fire site, I think.
So, and it can be anything. It'd just be like, here's a free Pez dispenser.
Sometimes it's very simple. It's just a little Tupperware hidden in the woods.
Okay.
Which is fun. You're using this, multi-billion-dollar array of military satellites.
Right.
To do what? To find a little Tupperware that somebody's hidden in the woods. And often there will be, you can swap like trinkets. You'll open it up and there'll be not just a log to sign, but also like Happy Meal toys or something.
Okay.
So it's great for kids. My kids are obsessed with it because it's actually like a treasure hunt from a Hardy Boys book or something, but in real life,
right.
with
so you can do it in anywhere in the
trail.
world. Like if you happen to be in Rio de Janeiro and if you ping their site, someone might have buried something.
I have done that. I was at Angkor Wat, and it turned out there was a geocache.
Is that Vietnam or Cambodia?
Cambodia, yeah.
All right.
Like the cool falling apart one from the Laura Croft movie. Somebody has hidden a geocache like in some, which you're probably not supposed to do. It's like a UNESCO World Heritage site. Do not.
It's not a construction site.
Do not hide Tupperware.
Yeah, somewhere on the Parthenon, if you could please try not to.
But they're ubiquitous. Yeah, no matter where you are. Like often if I'm in a hotel somewhere with an hour to kill, I'll be like, "Where's the nearest geocache?" And it'll always just be down the street. There's
awesome.
a hidden treasure.
That's, now I want there to be like the wall in Jerusalem. That's another inappropriate place. Now I just want to think of inappropriate places. 9/11, the Ground Zero.
It's a very respectful.
It's a respectful place. I'm going to bury a vial of tears.
Never forget the coordinates.
Yay! Ken Jennings.
But sometimes it's very elaborate. Sometimes there's a puzzle to solve or something. Like instead of getting the coordinates, you get a series of diabolical clues.
Oh, cool!
Like from an eccentric millionaire. Yeah,
yes.
like the Riddler. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so often, like I remember I've had to. I remember having to figure out the matrix that turns RGB monitor colors into like the old scheme for like old TV cathode ray tubes, like color TV tubes. And by mastering this mathematical transform, I produced the coordinates for the cache, which is a total waste of time, obviously. I'm never going to need this knowledge again, but that was the kind of esoteric thing you had to do.
Right. But it'll stop the voices. Are you kidding? It's amazing. It's just so great.
Like the voices of my wife and kids, usually. Like I'm like, I got to go run some errands, honey. I'll be back in a couple
Except
hours.
for the voices are, Dad, why are you still doing that? And she's like, I'll be right with you. And, but now they're into it too, right? The kids are on board and they want to go. And how close to the coordinates you say are within 350 feet. So let's say
the technology, it's degrees and then minutes, which is like a 60th of a degree, apparently. And then instead of seconds, you get like 1,000th of a minute. So it's I think it does translate to like a cube on the Earth's surface, like 3 by 3 feet. Like it really can tell you exactly. But the thing is, there's some, these GPS devices, they're not perfect. Bounces off trees, bounces off buildings. Maybe you don't have the right, they call it a constellation of satellites overhead, just where the satellites happen to be.
Okay.
Because what you're doing, as I understand this, is you're triangulating between multiple satellites.
Okay.
You're pinging them and they can tell by how long it takes for the signal to get back to you,
Right.
it can tell exactly where you are as long as you have 3 different satellites.
That's so, you know,
It's crazy, right?
what was the first GPS? Like, the first one I had was like a Garmin that went in my car, and it was
Yeah.
portable, and it just died like a month ago. But I've had it for like 5 or 6 years, so the technology isn't that old.
The satellites have been there since like this, I think the 70s or 80s, but the government was intentionally jamming the signal. So you'd get data that had been scrambled.
Okay.
You know, it would know where you were, but by law, it would have to tell you, just kidding, you might be 30 feet over there. And then it would be like, no, wait, you're 20 feet behind me. And then, you know, Clinton signs his executive order saying, guess what? There are now workarounds. This jamming thing doesn't work anymore. We might as well just let people have the data.
Okay.
And so it created this whole location-based industry.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that was okay. Because my father-in-law had the first handheld GPS, and it wasn't anything fancy. It was like the old-timey green screen with like a boop. You know, it looked old school. And I remember when he told me about it, it was like 10 years ago, and I was like, what do you use this for? And he, of course, he was like, I just use it to find where I planted my pot in the national forest in Arkansas. And I was like, huh. And he said, yeah, because you let it grow, and then you go harvest it when it's done, because otherwise you make a trail, and the cops could. I was like, stop talking. Stop. I'm good, Clyde. I'm good. And
That's why the government was jamming it, because of your
Right,
uncle
my
or your
father-in-law.
father-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, he's the problem.
He was definitely part of the solution. And it was yeah, so you've traveled extensively. Angkor, what? I've always wanted to go there, weirdly enough. Was it gorgeous? Was it beautiful?
It's amazing. Yeah, we were in Thailand, and I was like, we're like a bus ride away from Angkor Wat. Like, you know, this
That's what
amazing
Kissinger
place.
said. Yeah. And
Let's just carpet bomb our way through. We'll make a path straight to...
sure.
No, we took a bus. It was a lot
Oh,
easier.
good.
It's a lot easier today.
Were there chickens on the bus?
Yeah. No chickens on the bus.
Okay.
But lots of, like, water buffalo roaming the sides of the...
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Crazy stuff at the border, by the way. Like, they try to run all these scams. Like, they want you to, like, buy a visa. But it's really just these guys on a motorbike. So
They're just stopping you going, would you give me $10 if I asked you? You're kind
maybe a lot of Americans are dumb and probably just are
Right.
afraid they're going to get macheted. And
Right.
But I had read on the internet, just say no to all the sketchy stuff, and eventually you'll get to the border. So my wife and I do this. We keep saying no, and she's like, we're going to get killed. These guys are, you know, every time some new obstacle, she'd be like, these are the guys with the machete. But we eventually made it across.
Right, no one was, and there was, and people are, it's just, I think they're just pinging you. You know, it's just like, oh, maybe.
never know.
Maybe. It's a numbers game. It's all just a cold call.
And here's the thing about the border. I'm going to get this wrong. In Thailand, they drive on the left, I think. Am I doing this right? And in Cambodia, they drive on the right.
Oh, interesting.
So you can imagine how what a land border looks like, you know? Like I was
Wow.
like dying to see what this would look like. It's just like head-on collisions, like all the time. Like, how does this even work? Or some kind
did
of
it work?
Mobius strip of.
Yeah.
I was so excited to see, and we got to the border, total letdown.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's nothing happens. They stop the truck, they check them. Every so often, a truck comes through, swerves around. Like, there's no traffic at all, so there's no.
Oh, everyone's
crazy-
sane and
Yeah,
they're just run by adults.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
they wave a truck through and it switches sides. It was the most boring thing.
Oh, right. There was no
very,
drama.
Very
it was perfectly
bummed.
fine. All right.
Like so many other things in life.
Right.
A huge letdown.
You build it up, and then, I was thinking about this the other day, because I sometimes have my dreams, I never remember them, but when I do, they always mean something, and it's never a mystery, and it's usually a stress-related dream, and what I've realized is that every single dream I remember is the future is scary, but it's going to be almost exactly like the present, but slightly different. That's every single dream I've ever had.
That's pretty accurate, isn't it?
It is. I'm terrified. The bottom falls out of something. I land somewhere that looks almost exactly like where I was, but slightly different.
What kind of differences? Like,
Well, the one that I remember offhand was I was standing next to Mr. Peabody. Weirdly enough, new movie coming out. But it was
it's like product placement in your dreams.
That's how American I am. And so
It's working.
It's all working, folks. Congratulations. And there's a drone. No, but Yeah, so I was standing next to the Wayback Machine, but it wasn't a Wayback Machine. It was a future machine. And Mr. Peabody was actually saying to me, if you press this button, you can see what the future is like. And I was like, oh, I want to see what the future is like. He said, yeah, but you got to pick or not pick or not pick. And then you can't come back. You can't come back. And then he's screaming at me, Mr. Peabody, screaming at me, pick or don't pick, pick or don't pick. And finally I was like, I'm picking. And I slam the button. I fall to the ground. I land almost exactly on the street that I live on, except for that the buildings are slightly different. So I was like, oh, the future's going to look almost exactly the same, but be slightly different. And I'm going to be nervous until that happens. That was the message of every dream I've ever had about stress.
That's pretty much true, though. Like, if somebody came here from 1980, like, they'd be surprised about cell phones and, like, salted caramel or something. They'd be like, we never put salt in. But everything else, they'd be like, yeah, these lights, microphone,
right.
like everything else would be this. It's not like Star Trek where suddenly everything is like Buck Rogers shaped,
Right. It's not like teleportation was invented. It was like,
Right.
Everything. And just think how quick we would get used to teleportation.
Right.
Like right now, the internet is available in the sky, and when it doesn't work, you're like, fuck. And you're all mad.
Like your phone's slightly slower, like the sum of all human knowledge is taking a few more seconds to arrive in your hand than it usually does, and you're so pissed.
Right. It's like it's like at the end of Shawshank Redemption when that guy gets out and he's like, everyone's so fast, and then I'm sure like 9 weeks later he would have been fine.
Should have stuck it. What's his name? Dutch or what's the guy's name?
In Shawshank Redemption, Red. Oh, it was Red.
No, I'm talking about James Whitmore, the white guy who hangs himself. Brooks.
Oh, Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks. Isn't he the guy who like hangs himself just before
because he can't take it.
He would have got used to it.
He would have got used to it.
He's bagging groceries, everything's fine.
The future is different but the same. Don't worry about it. Don't kill yourselves. It's a waiting game. It's going to be fun.
Good message for the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone listening. It'll be okay. What I like is the next one, which was forgotten early 20th century newspaper comics.
Yeah.
Alley-oop.
No,
That's the only one, even older.
I remember Allie, the dinosaurs, right? Dinosaur and a caveman, right?
No, all I remember is the name. Alley-oop.
Like the older they get, like the more beautiful they are. Like, have you ever seen like Little Nemo and Slumberland? Like these sort of weird, surreal dream landscapes. Like this kid goes to bed.
Yeah.
And it's obviously mushroom trip or something because he's in these places with weird geometries, and suddenly the ceiling is the wall. And
that was a daily newspaper or a weekly newspaper.
Every
comics?
Sunday, and this is like 1910, and the most beautiful, lush color. Like,
wow.
We saw it when, in the mid 80s, suddenly USA Today is in color and we're like, whoa,
Right.
This is so pretty. And yet, like in the 1910s, they had these amazingly gorgeous, like essentially oil canvases in the paper every Sunday. And it was popular entertainment. You didn't have TV. You looked forward to what Little Nemo was going to be doing.
Right. What was Little Nemo doing? Was he a sea captain? No. Was there Nemo happening?
No, he's just a kid.
Okay.
He's a kid who falls asleep. He goes to Dreamland.
Okay.
Unlike your Dreamland, it's actually interesting and
right.
and evocative,
and complicated, and things are going on.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is his bed, but then his bed gets up and starts walking. So occasionally it's more like your dreams.
Oh, it's surreal.
Yeah, but it's very surreal. Yeah, and he'll be in some palace, and then things start to grow or shrink, like Alice in Wonderland style.
Okay.
And it's just beautifully, gorgeously drawn with all this great Art Nouveau kind of architecture.
And these are just news sheets that came out in 1910 every Sunday.
And recently there's been some trend to reprint all this stuff, even the obscure, weird ones. And it turns out they're all just gorgeous. And sometimes they reprint them at because newspapers used to be like literally the size of like a plasma TV. Like newspapers
like 42
were huge.
inches across.
Yeah, like
possibly.
you'd spread it out on the floor and it would like be the size of your living room, And kids
there would be
just
one
pour
image? Or three images?
It's panels,
right.
like a comic page.
Big panels.
But yeah, and now they're reprinting them at actual size in these huge oversized hardcovers that are literally the size of your desk.
Right.
And it's this amazing immersive experience, and you realize why these things were so popular.
Compelling,
they were literally taller than the kids reading them, Like, they're
so
really
there's
great.
Little Nemo. What's another one? Offhand.
Like a lot of these old ones are sort of crazy. There's this very obscure one that the guy who created Raggedy Andy did called Mr. Tweedledee, who's this sort of imaginary dude with a mustache who shows up to kids playing games and shows them things.
Uh-oh.
So it's this It's this real creepy molestery vibe.
Right.
Until you read it. It turns out he's just showing them poems about butterflies or whatever.
Right. He's just a little Asperger's, and he's just like, I need to show you this thing.
His name, it's not his fault his name is Mr. Tweedledee.
Right.
Like he was born with a molestery name.
Right.
Know?
And then he grew the mustache.
And then he grew a really curly mustache.
So
and
he didn't help his case.
And he wears like a top hat.
And he wants to hang out with children.
And he wants to touch little children on their genitals. But except for that, it's all really cool and innocent.
Before that, it's fine.
Right.
And then after that, it's okay. The whole poetry thing, when, like there's a lot of that sort of the books of that time period. There was a guy, when I was in junior high, I read a boys, like they were boys' books from the early 1900s. This guy died in 1919. His name was Joseph A. Altschuler. And he wrote a series of boys' books, and they were like the story of the French and Indian War, they were the story of the Civil War, and then he wrote like 3 books about World War I, and then he died in 1919. But they're very well written. But they were just considered crap novels, right? They were pulp novels of the time. But they're so much better written than anything today.
Like stuff today has gotten so much worse.
Right.
Pulp stuff yesterday actually looks pretty good.
Right, just because of the diagramming of sentences was a lot more, there was a lot more whip to it, and so everybody knew how to compose prose better. And so there are things that are well written today, but there was a children's novel, I think from the 20s, called Amazons and Swallows, or Swallows and Amazons.
I know that book. Arthur Ransom, right?
That's it. Ransom, with an E, I think.
Ransom with an E.
But it's a very sweet book about little kids going camping on an island, and nothing happens. They just have a little boat, and they just go camping, and their mom's like, well, you got to come in the morning, pick up some eggs so that your older sister can take the eggs back and milk and make some, and then you guys can play Indians and cowboys and run around all day, and then I can get my life together. But
this stuff still works for kids.
Yeah.
Like I give my kids, today these overstimulated kids, I give my daughter loves these boxcar children books, these mysteries, but they're like mysteries like in the loosest possible sense. Usually the culprit turns out to be some old hermit, and everybody knew about him all along. Or actually, this is my nephew. He's taken a semester off from college. This is the solution to the mystery. But the texture of the books is it's them finding old flatware and frying an egg or something. Like this will be a chapter. And it's nothing. Yeah, it's totally devoid of incident. But my daughter loves this.
Right.
Kids just latch on to these sort of slow, leisurely things, and we think they won't, but they totally do.
Right. If they're given an opportunity to read something, something.
It's the same with Miyazaki movies. This Japanese director. It's exactly I'm not trying to do some slick segue here.
No, but it's a good one because you've already jumped ahead.
His movies always have scenes of there's a dry ground and rain starts to fall. And you see the rain dot the ground and then the rain picks or kids look in a river and just watch leaves go down a river. And you'd think this is boring. My kids are not going to watch that. No, kids are just hypnotized by this stuff. Miyazaki knows exactly what he's doing.
Right. They're fascinating. I had not seen any of them until I met my fella, and he's a giant nerd. And so he was like, have you ever heard of this Princess Mononoke? And I was like, no. And so that was a date movie. We ended up making out to it, but we know how to make out to cartoons. Yeah, it's pretty hot. It was no Mulan. And because you wanted to watch Princess Mononoke because it was fascinating, but all of his movies are, they're serious and they're beautiful. What's your favorite ones? Have you seen them all? Or?
I think I've seen them all. Yeah, I remember I still have some affection for the very first one I saw, which is not ambitious at all. Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh, right.
It's a little witch, and the conceit, which is sort of funny, is that she's not really good at any of the stuff that witches should actually do, like spells and potions. All she can do is fly on a broom, which apparently is really, I think that's awesome.
Right.
But apparently for a witch, that's the worst. It's
anybody can do that.
Anybody can fly on a broom. So she delivers packages.
Oh, right. It's the delivery service.
Yeah, and it's sort of the Kiki's, and the whole, really, it's the same kind of thing, because the whole thing of the movie is her delivering a cake and worrying that it won't get there for the party,
Right.
And you're like, these stakes are so low, This is not Jack Bauer stuff, but kids are like, holy crap, what if the cake doesn't get there for the party? Like he's totally, on some wavelength that kids totally get.
That's awesome. Yeah, because then I think my favorite one was the Valley of the Wind, Nausicaa,
yeah.
which is all bugs, and I don't enjoy bugs, and they're giant fucking bugs. And but it was so beautiful, and that story was so, like he has a new movie out that is not for children.
The Wind Rider. Yeah, I took my 11-year-old, but it was sort of a rough go.
Right, because it was pretty dark?
Yeah, well, it's just not a fantasy movie. It's about, for one thing, it's about the guy that invented the planes that bombed Pearl Harbor. So that's a feel-good story for the kids.
All right.
Nice job inventing those planes. But it's also just, it's a 2-hour and 10-minute biopic. It has no fantasy elements at all.
Okay, is it autobiographical or?
Well, it's based on this real Japanese airplane designer.
Okay.
Of the, sort of a fictionalized version of his life. But I think there's a lot of Miyazaki in there because the guy has this, the guy just wants to build beautiful airplanes. And of course, the military-industrial complex keeps saying, awesome, now we can bomb Pearl Harbor. And he's like, no, you're totally missing the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, not really, it wasn't perfect for an 11-year-old.
Right, but I think the first, one of my nephews was really into anime, and I sent him, I can't even remember the name of it, but it was the darkest, and I was like, it was before I realized, I used to read all the books, but he was I considered him kind of an old 11, so I sent him, I can't remember, maybe you guys will remember it, it's the one where the two little kids right after,
Grave of the Fireflies?
Yeah.
Oh, man. The kid,
Yeah, he was like, hey, Aunt Jackie, that was really sad. And I was like, what was it? And he was like, it was right after the bombing of Nagasaki and it was about these two orphan kids. And I was like, what have I done? And he was like, no, it was really beautiful. Thank you very much. And because the previous Christmas I had given him these
Schindler's List.
I'd given him these Marvel collection cards, and when he opened it, he said, "These are the wrong ones." And I said, "That's actually the wrong answer, Sam. The right answer is, thank you, Aunt Jackie. These are perfect." And then he goes, "No, these are the right ones. Thank you so much." And I said, "See, how hard was that?" And he goes, "No, they're the." And I said, "Uh-huh." So he had learned that he was supposed to lie.
That is everything that's wrong with these kids today. These are the wrong ones.
These are the wrong ones, and then you're like, lie. Take them back.
There's this thing every Christmas on Twitter where people just retweet kids complaining about getting the wrong tablet or the wrong
wrong game or the wrong thing, and you're just like, wow.
It just makes you want to gas them all.
7 billion people on the planet. We're not going to die out if I kill you.
We need to do some reverse Logan's Run where we only kill the people under 25 or
Exactly.
whatever. No offense. I'm sorry. Yeah. Anybody here make the cut? Are you guys good?
Awesome. So, did you see Ponyo?
I did. My daughter loves Ponyo. My daughter looks like Ponyo, actually.
Oh, adorable.
Except not the weird one where she has the chicken legs. Like my daughter's she doesn't have birth defects or anything.
Excellent.
But she's got, big face, big mouth, she's always eating ham.
Ponyo loves ham.
Well, if you need to know one thing about Ponyo,
she enjoys ham.
She does not keep kosher.
No. She will eat all of the ham out of all the sandwiches.
Which is weird because she's from the ocean.
Right.
Why is evolution?
Why ham?
Yeah.
Maybe she just needed the salt.
Where does she get ham in the, what does she do when she doesn't get ham?
Right. Well, my crazy thing was that when Tina Fey, when the mom, essentially is like, hey, I'm going to go help the old people. You're 5. I'll be back in 3 days. And take care of the weird fish girl. And he's like,
in our house by the cliff where waves have recently been sweeping over the road.
Yeah. And
you just chill here.
Right. You stay here and take care of everything. I'll be right back in 3 days. And then he's like, oh, okay, sure. It reminds me of Flipper. I don't know if you ever saw the original Flipper movie, but there's an 8-year-old boy who was left to do all of the work on Flipper. And his dad, there had been a hurricane, and his dad leaves him a chore list where he's supposed to rebuild a fence and retile the roof, and he's supposed to do, and he meets Flipper and blows it all off because he's 9 or 7 or something. And his dad comes back and he's like, "You're 7. I thought you were a man." And It's a movie from 1964. I can only recommend it. And
well, do you think that's how it really is in Japan? Like, is Asia just going to kill us because they actually have, independent kids who get
these
to do
children,
stuff? And...
Yeah. The shoes are amazing. I mean, they're building things. They're living their lives.
I mean, this iPhone works every time.
Exactly. They're having children by the time they're 8.
Thank you.
It's all.
Thank you, Chinese 7-year-olds.
Thank you. I'm going to Hong Kong next month.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm hoping to free some children. No, I have no idea what's.
Bring them home?
No, I don't want to raise them. I've already made peace with that. That I will be killed by.
You just want to free them and let them go like Free Willy.
Free Willy.
Run like the wind.
Let your fin go straight up as you course through the ocean. Because you know that killer whales in captivity, their fins they're always flopped over.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Only when they're not in captivity do their fins go up.
Is that right?
I don't actually know that. I think that's true. That was someone told me that.
I didn't watch that bummer documentary about how you don't go to SeaWorld because it's the worst.
I can't do it. I can't watch the
I
kill
feel like
all
it
the
would be too
dolphin
hard.
one.
I saw that one and I still sort of regret it.
Right. I saw the penguin one, and that one was supposed to be a good one.
But
right?
That one's good. Nobody comes out at the end and starts hacking up penguins.
It's true. The penguins just die of natural selection.
Oh, that's true.
Because it's the march of the penguins, and they're adorable.
And now
but
we know
many
what
of
they're
them,
marching toward.
Death. Inexorably, as we all are.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's.
What else is in the news?
Cheerful. How about the new electric cars? What about that? That was the other thing. Is that you just got an electric?
I just got an electric car.
Which one?
The Volt. It's the electric car for wussies, because it's not really an electric car. It's electric until you run out of batteries, and then there's this backup gas engine. It's just kidding. We know you're not ready for this, America. Then the gas engine just kicks in and actually gets you to the mall.
Good. It's but it's baby steps. So
it's got a 40-mile range, and the idea is most of your driving. If you have a normal kill yourself kind of commute.
Yeah.
Most of your driving is, and I work at home, so it's mostly just stupid errands for me.
Right.
So, and that's perfect for me. I got the car a couple of weeks ago. I've used half a gallon of gas.
Wow.
It's you plug it in every night. Here in Seattle we got cheap hydroelectric.
So you have to plug it in every night.
It's coming from I come home and plug in my car like George freaking Jetson,
Right.
And I feel pretty cool every time. Just gotta plug in my car. I have this little door here in the car.
I'm gonna charge my iPhone and my car.
You don't put gas in this. It looks like a gas door, and then it's like a plug, and you're like.
I'm kind of looking forward to it, though. With comedy, all comics do are ruin things. So Dave Mordahl does this joke about how when you plug it in, electricity doesn't come from rainbows and unicorns. There's a coal plant belching gas.
There's parts of the country where electric cars are actually worse because you're getting it from coal instead of from relatively clean burning.
But here
here it does come from rainbows because it's
it's hydroelectric.
Clean water coming down from the Cascades, not only making Rainier beer, but also
excellent.
Also now powering my car.
This coffee, very lovely. Mm-hmm. So I've There's a bunch of new ones out that kind of look like Hot Wheels that are really neat, like Tesla and.
I can't afford a Tesla.
No one can.
I had to be on Jeopardy for 10 more years.
Right. Did you see that last guy that was on Jeopardy that was gaming the system?
Oh yeah, smart guy.
Yeah,
people hated him, the Arthur Chu.
Well, I liked the idea of him going. I know I could beat this woman, and she deserves $27,000. Let's have her the one where I guess when you go into
he was betting to tie.
Yeah, he was betting to tie when he went into Final Jeopardy, so that because if you tie, then both people get to keep the money, and then they both move to the next day.
See, I'm not like that. I was like the evil trainer in Rocky IV who's like finish him. I do not want anybody coming back because I think your big advantage on Jeopardy is that you have held that buzzer in your hand and you know what you're doing.
Oh, okay.
Because the timing's very tricky.
Okay.
And every day they're bringing in fresh meat. Which is awesome. These people are all just deer in the headlights, ah!
Right.
And so that's how you win on Jeopardy. It's just totally unfair home field advantage.
Right. Because I thought that the guy was thinking, I've already beat this lady, I can beat her again.
I think it's more like some math thing where he doesn't want to bet the $1 extra it would take to guarantee the win, because if he gets it wrong, that could actually cut against him. That's $1 more he's going to lose if he's wrong.
Okay.
So he feels it actually ups his chances of winning.
I also
he's
gave
not being
him
nice.
I also gave him the benefit of the doubt and thought he was being chivalrous.
No,
I am
he's an
incorrect
evil.
again.
He's a twisted evil.
He's
genius.
a twisted evil genius because that's who plays Jeopardy.
No, that's what people thought, and it's the worst. It's because he was Asian. Like people, you see, because there have been tons of. I'm serious. There have been tons of
What's the stereotype? Let's go there.
Tons of white guys on Jeopardy. They all do this thing where they jump around and look for the daily doubles. Like literally dozens of players have won a lot of Jeopardy doing this. This one Asian guy comes on, and people are like, "Look at this guy. Something a little different about him." He's sinister. He's scheming. Like,
was he also inscrutable? What a bunch of asshats!
Exactly. Like it's 2014 and we're still like, come see this Oriental guy on Jeopardy.
Jesus H. Christ.
It's the worst.
What a bunch of.
I really could not
jobs.
believe, and I'm pretty convinced that's what was going on. There was this very ugly
There was some
racial angle
racism.
to it.
Yeah. That'll happen.
Which I benefited from. I'm like the nice white guy on Jeopardy. Like,
right.
I'm
Look at that guy.
unexamined Jeopardy privilege here.
Another white guy being handed 20s under the table. It's whenever I meet, there's, regular Seattle, chock full of people. I just think that if a bomb hit Seattle, the Green Party would be devastated. But that's what I always think. But but there's a lot of there's plenty of white guys that are like, no, I get it. It's not the advantage. Nobody's handing me 20s under the table, but there's the advantage of not being scrutinized quite as harshly, right? Like when you're a black man and you go into a store, people stare at you and expect you to steal shit. In some cases, right, where that's the negative thing that is happening, and the advantage of being white is that you don't have that. I don't know why this has turned into that, but I.
Do you not usually get into this on the podcast?
I don't know. I rarely. But whenever I meet a guy who's like, things are not great for me either, and I'm like, no, that's because you're alive. No, everybody is struggling. We get that. But I'm just saying that you have certain advantages as a 6 foot tall white dude that, a 4'7" Asian lady does not have. And
so this is my dorkdom. It's white male cishet privilege. It turns
sweet.
out I'm totally into it. Like it's not unexamined. Don't get me wrong. Like I know how easy I have it, but it's also pretty awesome. I got to say,
it's pretty sweet.
It's pretty I recommend it if you can arrange
if there's
it.
a way that next lifetime we can all just work towards that
upgrade.
It's so KenJennings.com. Is it Ken?
It's got a hyphen because I can't get the real one.
Oh right.
There's this guy in Florida he was running a Republican state Senate seat in 1997. He bought all the Ken Jennings domains, like on the flimsy pretext that was his name.
But it was pre-Twitter though. Pre-Twitter though, because you got Ken Jennings.
I do have
Twitter.
the real Twitter handle. Some guy at Twitter, I think, actually got it for me, thinking you might want this someday.
Oh, good for him.
I totally laughed at it. I was like, I'm not going to get on this stupid thing.
Right, and now totally addicted
to
Twitter.
It runs my life.
I freaking love.
It's the worst.
I have the iPad, the iPad Mini, which no reason why it would be sitting there, because I'm doing a show. But there it is, whispering, "Hey, has anyone emailed you?" Nope. Maybe you got an Evite to something. Who's still using Evite? Anyone? Anybody out there? Oh, one lady. Good for you.
I find myself, my phone's sitting here, and I find myself just sort of picking it up and
just touching.
You got to just touch it a little bit to make sure it's still there. It's like the Ring, the one ring.
It is a little bit like the one. I sometimes sleep with it on the road, just as a little.
Are you cuddled up a little bit?
A little bit. I sleep with. Okay, this is too much. But when I went to when I went overseas and performed for the troops, I would be in these tents, and I brought I always have 3 books and the iPad, and then I would sleep with them. And then April Macy would make fun of me. One of the other comics, she'd be like, "Why are you sleeping with all your stuff? It's like a nest." And I was like, "It's cozy. It's cozy. This is a Lois McMaster Bujold book I read when I get tense, and I'm not in a war zone, but there's a lot of people with guns around me, so I'm a little twitchy, and so I need a little blanket. If I were Linus, it would involve several books.
You got a security book.
It's my security book. Who doesn't want a security book? Who's made of stone? That's right. Okay, now I want to talk about this, which seems you've written essentially they're junior genius guides is what they're called.
Yeah, I have these new kids books that are out for.
How many are there?
The first 2 are already out. There's one about maps and geography and one about Greek mythology.
Oh, cool. Are
And,
they workbooky or what are they?
They sort of have they're it's all the stuff I liked in these kind of nerdy fact books when I was a kid, where they've not tons of amazing facts, like
Okay.
the giraffe's tongue is 20 feet long and all this stuff that irritating 10-year-olds love, but also like
Is a giraffe's tongue?
that's actually true. I'm not just making up fake facts here.
How long is it?
20 feet, yeah. Like three LeBrons or something.
I don't know what to do with that information. Well, I know what to do with that information.
They say about the size of a giraffe's
cool.
tongue.
Yes, but
Also projects and things that kids are into, codes to crack and projects to do and little recipes you can do with a grown up.
Oh, right. Like make a volcano kind of stuff.
Yeah, make this stuff fun anything I thought was cool made the cut.
Okay, so the first one was maps and stuff?
Yeah.
And because I mean, people do love maps. I don't mind maps myself,
I wrote a book about maps, and I feel like grown-ups are the wrong audience for that, because grown-ups are just stressed out by maps. Like, to a grown-up, a map is like, I can't remember where I parked, or I can't find my off-ramp, or...
Right. The only maps that we're really looking at are you are here, and then you're trying to find the gap.
And we're already stressed by the time we're trying to find Sbarra or whatever.
Right.
So we associate maps with stress. It's like nobody's excited about Imodium, even though Imodium's awesome.
What's Imodium?
It's like diarrhea medicine. Like by the time you're holding a bottle of Imodium, something's already gone terribly wrong for you. Like. So you don't have warm, fuzzy feelings. And maps are the same way.
Science of Imodium, who created Imodium? You say to yourself, what genius was like, this is going to happen. There's going to be trouble, and somebody's going to need this.
But kids are like, for a kid, a map is like adventure, So I feel like you get to a kid early enough, for their whole life, they can think, yeah, it's actually like cool and fun to know about the world.
So are they topographical? Do you do the different kinds, or what?
It's it's more like weird places on the earth. We start with basics: latitude, longitude. How do you remember which is which? How do time zones work? How can it be nighttime in Korea when it's daytime here? But then it gets into weird time zone places. Like there's this place in Scandinavia where three countries, Russia, Norway, and Finland all meet.
Yeah.
And the time zones are such that you can actually step across the border and go back in time like 4 hours. Like the border guards on one side are having breakfast at the same time the other guys are having lunch, and they're like an inch away.
Oh, weird.
Just, weirdness of geography like this.
And the light is exactly the same. There's just
like they just make up. Time zones are just a lie. Like China's all on the same time zone because that's national unity. But what that really means is like the sun, you have to get up if you're in Western China. You have to, you get up at 6 a.m. and the sun's not going to be up for like 5 more hours or something.
Wow.
Because they got to be on Beijing time.
Okay.
Time zones are huge.
Who knew that? Who knew that the entirety of China? Yeah, nobody fucking knew that. I didn't know that. The whole of China is one time zone?
Yeah, and it's wider than the U.S. So it literally should be like 5 or 6.
It genuinely should be 5 or 6.
Like on the strength of where the sun is.
I'm sure you knew. No, you didn't know either, Mindy? All right, this is his wife. So, but the thing is like, holy, that's insane. That somebody has to get up at 6 in the morning, but it's really like 3 in the morning?
And they're mad. They're like,
they have to be furious.
Stupid chairman Wu or whoever's running China,
Right.
like.
It's like I want to be supportive of China because I am Chinese, even though I live a gajillion miles from Beijing. But
that's probably why they got so much trouble with the Tibetans and the Uyghurs and whatever. All these people, they just want to they're cranky because of daylight saving. Yeah. It's like they got daylight savings time all year. Like that. It's that day for them, Groundhog Day style, like all year.
Have you been to China?
I've been to China once.
Okay, because there's different. That's insane.
And I think stuff like this is what can make anything, geography actually seem fun to kids. This is the kind of fact they want to bug mom and dad with,
What's the Junior Genius Guide map? I'm buying that book. I want to know more facts along those lines.
It's going to be a whole series of these books. Presidents is coming out in May, and then there's going to be space and the human body and Egypt and all kinds. The stuff that kids are obsessed with.
Yeah, which are
dorkdoms.
Dorkdoms, fantastic. It's I just did one with Jay Moore about presidents. His favorite president, Truman.
Jay Moore loves presidents.
Yeah, he reads presidential biographies.
Nice.
Yeah, you would think. And then I was on his podcast and I called him a jock and he got kind of mad. And But he does a sports radio show, and he's a jock.
Let's be honest. Presidential biographies are sort of a jock thing to read. That's what like douchebag businessmen on airplanes read. You know.
I did, and I did tell him. I said you are a slow clap jock. So he's an okay jock. Like he's like that nerd nailed it. You know, he's a slow clap jock.
Is that how you can tell the difference between like a good-hearted jock and
good-hearted Chris Cluey, slow clap jock.
Because how would an evil jock clap? Are they like they're like yeah, like they're one of these type A
evil jock?
type.
There's no clapping. That is an absence of. That is a guy that punches. That is just like I don't want the nerd to ever be right. A pound. So slow clap jock is like I can be convinced that there's a good nerd. That nerd was helpful.
I can see people like doing some sort of type A fast like Ditka kind of okay, bring it in, fast clap kind of.
Right.
Like not like Citizen Kane, like weird. Your hands are gonna start bleeding clapping. But.
Little more, but supportive, kind of like encouraging. Like a Ditka kind of clap is more of a come on,
like a bring it in kind of clap.
It's like you can do one pull up.
I don't know sports things. I'm saying phrases I've heard from movies about sports. Huddle up, is that a thing?
Is that a thing? The Natural? Are you going to knock that light out? Yeah, all I know about sports are entirely movie-related as well. Major League was on the other day. It was back when what's-his-face was almost sane. Winning.
Charlie Sheen?
Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen, yeah. And, so like you know what I would like to do is I like topography. But I don't always understand it from the map to the, like, I know what a hill is, but I don't know, like, when you look at a topographical map.
Right.
You're like,
like with the kind that do the lines, so it's all like sort of stripy, zebra.
Yeah, when there's waves and there's all these different elevations and things are limited, you're just like, okay, but how do I navigate?
It's true. You sort of have to, your mind has to turn, like if the rings are getting smaller, somehow you have to turn that into
3-dimensional.
3D, like it's a mountain peak. That's what they should do. They should be, we have 3D glasses. You should have a thing where you look at the map and the mountains actually come at you, right?
Will you get Google glasses?
Well, they sort of have that. You look at digital maps and, now they have the ones where the buildings sort of turn in 3D.
Right. But I wish that, here's the thing, is there's a part of me that wishes that I could draw maps. Like the first guy who went with Lewis and Clark across the United States, and that guy was like, oh, that's where that hill is. And he knew how to draw that map so that the guy behind him could go, oh, there's going to be a hill there. And
yeah, those guys did too good a job. Like all the mystery is gone now.
Right, but like, could you do that? Do you know how to do maps? Do you know how to make maps?
Oh, like navigating. No, it's all trigonometry. It turns out there's all this nerdy kind of like I read about this guy. I think this is in the Junior Genius book. This guy, the first guy to map the Himalayas. He actually you weren't allowed to make maps, so he sneaks into Tibet. He has to boil water every night, and everybody thinks he's making tea. No, he's checking to see how fast the water boils, because then he can get his elevation. And he's actually got like a Buddhist prayer wheel. And so people think he's like super devout. He's actually like clicking it to count paces as he's walking. So he can like do distances too. So the guy's like a map spy, Buddhist map spy.
Oh, that's awesome. See how cool that is?
That's pretty boss, yeah.
And I know that if I lived even 200 years ago, I would not live. I would die. I would have died of exposure, or some sort of, I would have just wandered off into the woods and never found my way home. Because I like the woods, but I don't know how to get out of them.
I think what that does to evolution, people like us, that used to be, like dying before we could bring down the gene pool, because we were not the ones who could skin a bear or whatever.
There will always be the asshole gene of cation going forth. Because none of my brothers can see, but they breed like bunny rabbits. There's just plenty of that going on. Anyway, but so one was maps, and then what was the second one that's already
Greek
out?
mythology also.
I love Greek mythology.
I was obsessed with that in like 2nd, 3rd grade, man.
I went to Delphi once and
you've been?
And I went to Delphi and we climbed over the fence at night with a bottle of wine, because the Greeks are not paying attention. You can just climb over a fence and bring some wine and move. That was when I first realized that these were ruins and not construction sites, because
You thought they were still working on it?
Well,
when are they going to stand up this pillar?
We were. Almost.
It looks like it's been crooked for like years.
I was with a Mexican woman, a Canadian guy, and a South African guy. Nothing happened. And But we brought a bottle of wine and we climbed over this fence, and the Canadian guy, of course, was reading the sign because we were all standing on the altar, and he was like, "Hey guys, I don't think we're supposed to be on the altar." And
Classic Canada.
Classic Canada, knowing about the rules. And then the Mexican woman was putting a candle and was propping it up, and he goes, "It's not a construction site. Stop moving the rocks." And I was reminded that when I took Latin, that my Latin teacher was like, she was talking about how she went to the Colosseum and people were stealing rocks, and she's like, you can't steal rocks. Then all the rocks will be gone, and then it won't actually exist anymore. And so I was like, oh, right. And
the Greeks, I believe that this is in the book. The Greeks believed that Delphi was the belly button of the world. They called it the omphalos. Like,
neat.
They thought that was like the center of the world. You know, there was a rock there. They literally, I don't know why they would literally think the Earth needed a belly button.
I don't know.
But that was it for them, Delphi.
It's a skiing town now.
Is that right?
Yep. And it's and
a bummer.
I met and then I met an American businessman who. I was walking through some ruin, and he was in front of me and said, "You know what's weird about these places is that they know what they look like, but they don't just fix it." And I was like, wow, you've been all over the world? Because there is a built-to-scale replica of the Parthenon in Nashville, Tennessee.
And his idea was it should look more like the one in Nashville.
Yeah, they know what it looks like. They just fill in the bits.
I gotta say, ours in Tennessee is a lot nicer than this. Like, you can just see the Tennessee guy being pretty pissed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's just like, we knew what it looked like. We have a giant statue of Athena. It's all working out for us. The Zanfir, the pan flute guy, plays there a couple of times a year. Things are happening. And
it's a falafel cart.
Right. So who's your favorite Greek hero?
It was really tricky writing the book because you realize you start writing this book for kids. It turns out they're all totally dirty, all these stories, you know.
Oh, yeah,
like
those
the
guys.
gods are just, I'll turn into whatever animal it takes to have sex with this lady.
Right,
you know?
right.
Like all these stories are the same way. Like this god, for some reason, like just wants to have sex with some lady. So he's like, well, what if I was a cow? That'd be pretty hot. Like,
I think she likes bulls.
She'd probably be into that. Or like, there's one where Perseus is born because Zeus literally turns into a golden shower to have sex with this lady. Like this is the actual story.
Right.
Like, write your own punchline here.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to figure out how to make that not dirty, and I can't.
There's some story where like these gods come down and I can't. So I'm not setting up the story, but it ends with like the gods have to like ejaculate onto a cow skin.
Right.
And this gives birth to some new creature or something. And I've got to write about this in a book for like 8 or 9-year-olds, you know, like.
And you're just trying to get to the fighting.
Right.
And
I'm just trying to get to the release the Kraken or whatever the kids want.
Right. I want to, where are the monsters and the swords going to come together?
Right.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of sex before it happens.
You have to gloss over all the.
Right. There's a lot of
weird.
All right. This, Ken Jennings, was fascinating.
Thank you for...
It is. Okay, so let's do Junior Genius Guides, and then everything you're doing is ken-jennings.com. You write puzzles, and you do, like...
It's true. I have a quiz in Parade magazine every week. Do you know Parade?
Yeah.
The thing that comes in the Sunday paper, and it's got, like...
Yeah, you do a
fajita
quiz?
recipes or whatever. Yeah, I do a little trivia quiz for Parade. That's my demographic. People who watch Jeopardy, the ones who are still with us.
I love the
also
smile
read
on your face.
Parade.
You're like, it's kind of dorky, but it's awesome, which is perfect.
I loved Parade when I was a kid. Like, I was so excited to be in Parade.
To be allowed.
To be allowed
so
to be in
cool.
Parade.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to have become a professional game show contestant. I love every minute of it.
Well, it's coming right along. And this is, I like that you're using your powers for good. So everyone should follow you on Twitter at Ken Jennings. And thank you so much for supporting the Live Dork Forest, you guys. And thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, if you want, we can take do people have questions, or is there a fascinating question everyone's always wanted to ask? I never do that. But
totally. There's a hand in the back, right? Oh, no, I actually went to high school overseas, so we never, I don't know when did they have that? It's like late 80s on? Yeah, I know, but like I'm old. Like, did they have it in like the early 80s?
It sounds like something from the 50s. A geography bee?
It's pretty old-timey. Alex Trebek hosts this every year in D.C., and it's like a spelling bee, but like the kids are answering. When I wrote my book about maps, there's a whole chapter about these geography bee kids because they're amazing. They literally know everything about the world. They run out of stuff to study.
Wow.
So you go there and these kids are like, Rwandan exports. Boom, boom, boom. They're like cobalt, sugarcane, sorghum. They know it. They're like little geography robots. It's amazing. They are. It's really inspiring because normally when you read about geography, it's about how like college age kids can't. 90% of them can't find.
Right. To sort of hear about smart kids is the best.
It encourages you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh yeah. It's like $1.99, dude. It probably was 99 cents, and you didn't buy it.
Well, I was on a phone.
I'm sure it goes to some awesome gay cause, too. What are you doing? Oh, okay, so I know Dan Savage from... I met him at a football game. This is where, I think this is where...
That's where guys meet.
That's where you expect to meet your gay icons, We both got invited through some weird shoestring way to go to the NFC Championship game. We were both at the Niners game. He'd never been to a football game of any kind. It was just sort of mystified by the whole thing. He was like, why is everybody being loud? And I was trying to explain to him, so you can't hear the signals. And he was like, that just seems in very poor taste. That just seems so rude.
It does seem rude.
These are our guests, So we were hanging out, and I'd gone to UW in the early 90s when The Stranger was brand new, and so like I was really like sexually molded by like early era Dan Savage, like really out there Dan Savage columns, and so like he's a real icon to me, and I was telling him, I was a big fan, and he was like, you should come on the show, just because I think he thought it would be funny, and we had a good time. 99 cents. It's got to be pretty good to be worth 99 cents.
For $5, by the way, you guys can get my new hour stand-up special. An hour of stand-up comedy video downloadable at allthingsrecords.com. And it's $5, and it is called This Will Make an Excellent Horcrux. Because my soul is in it.
Aww.
Huh? Anyway, that is probably the only Harry Potter joke in the entire hour. Anyway, but...
So you're tricking people.
I am tricking. I am
the
one
nerds.
Mad Eye Moody reference.
Like nerd dog whistles.
Yes.
like some dog... Horcrux?
Horcrux?
Like,
Harry Potter?
Nerds just like perk up like meerkats.
Squirrel? Anyway, anybody else? You going?
The best geocache. That's a
good one.
That's a good question. Because a lot of them do get very elaborate. They'll be in disguise, like it'll be a fake stump or something. This is a Harry Potter reference. There's one on a jogging trail, actually not too far from our house, where they've got like I think mile markers on the trail. Mile 9, mile 10. They put up one that said 9 3/4.
Nice.
It's a Harry Potter joke, and it's fake. It's a fake milepost, and you open it up, and there's a geocache inside it. There's one out on the Olympic Peninsula that I've never seen, but it's an old-timey payphone. But if you pick up the payphone and you dial the right code, the thing just opens up, and it's hollow, and it's a geocache, which is pretty awesome.
That is cool.
A lot of them are pretty cool.
All right, well, now I want to take part in the geocache world.
It's addictive.
I bet it is. But it'll get me out of the house.
That's the main thing, actually. It's just an excuse to go for a walk or something.
Right. Thank God. Look at this.
It's some way you can go for a walk and still stare at your phone.
Right. Matt Weinhold used to have the greatest joke. He said, this was like 15 years ago. Matt Weinhold, great comedian. Feel free to get his album. But he didn't have a computer, and his friends were like, you got to get a computer, man. And he said, yeah, have you been outside? The graphics are great. It's such a great joke. MattWeinhold.com. And anybody else? We got probably time for one more before they got to clear and reset.
Anticlimax.
Anticlimax?
You got time for one more question.
That's it.
Everybody's poised. What's it going to be? What's the closer? And then the crowd's like, yeah, we're done.
Oh, there we go.
Hero.
Bring us home, sir.
Where is
Washington State?
Fixed up Stonehenge? I don't know where this is. In the gorge somewhere?
There's a Stonehenge replica?
Is it like full size or is it like Spinal Tap size?
And it's not... And it's not made out of cars?
Goldendale, is that right? I've been right by there and I didn't go to Stonehenge. What was it? I guess it's like your replica Nashville thing, you know?
Yeah. It's like the built-to-scale replica of the Parthenon. But it's a built-to-scale replica of the Stonehenge? Is it scaled?
Do you recommend it? All right. I've been to real Stonehenge. Would it be like going to like the New York in Las Vegas? Like...
which I can only recommend if they still have it, the roller coaster. Because that's amazing.
Did you see this news story where there was a new postage stamp coming out with the Statue of Liberty on it, and it turned into a huge scandal because they had used a photo of the New York one from Vegas on the stamp? Like that's the basis for the engraving on the stamp. And I guess you can't tell unless you know the original picture, but
right.
But yeah, it's the casino on the stamp.
Oh, that's awesome.
I thought it was the greatest.
That is the greatest. Okay, you guys, I have shirts, and if anybody wants a sticker or something, I have nonsense out there. And then there's going to be a stand-up show in about an hour, a little bit less. So stay for that. Solomon Giorgio is going to be here, and myself, and Yogi. He is another local dork luminary. Got to get him on the pod. But thank you so much, Ken Jennings.
Thanks a lot, you guys. I had a great time. Buy merch.
All right. That was great. Thanks so much for listening to the show, you guys. The bonus content, which is Andy and I discussing the show, is available on the apps, the Libsyn sold apps. For some reason, Libsyn is also just posting it for free, so you don't have to buy the app. You can just go to tdf.libsyn.com if you're just downloading it to your iTunes and putting it on some other app to listen to all of the different podcasts that you listen to. So if you want to listen to the bonus content, just go to tdf.libsyn.com, or you can buy the app if you want. And you can also just go to iTunes, by the way, and review the show. iTunes supposedly cares about that. So if you're enjoying the show, and I read them, and that's great. And if you ever want to email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com. The credits, of course. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio. Thank you, Patrick. Mike Rickberg composed and sang the intro song. He's going to sing the Mexican hat dance right here in a moment. And Vilmos fixes the website, JackieCation.com, where, by the way, there is a donation button, JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com. Feel free to donate. I'd love everyone to give me $100 a year. That is $8.33 a month. I have not figured out a way to make that easy for you. You would have to remember that, or you can just throw me some money. If you don't have any money, that's fine as well. But feel free to talk up the show. And if you would like merch, if you'd like a Dork Forest t-shirt or a CD of my stand-up comedy, or would like to know where I'm doing stand-up, go to JackieCation.com and hook yourself up. There's also an Amazon banner if you want to, or if you ever order from Amazon, and we all do, go through JackieCation.com and the Amazon banner. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. See you next week.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?